She signed the paperwork on a Tuesday. $5 million. Double indemnity clause. Beneficiary. Herself. Her husband didn't know the policy existed. He was reported missing on a Friday. By Monday, she had already called the insurance company. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand something. This isn't just a true crime story. This is a story about how a single financial instrument, one most people never think twice about, became the most important piece of evidence. In a murder investigation, understanding how it worked might be the most important financial thing you learn this year. Let's go back to the beginning. For the purpose of this story, we'll call her Sandra. We'll call him David. On the surface, they were unremarkable. Married 11 years, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs. David worked in logistics, made decent money. Sandra managed the household finances. That last part matters. When one spouse controls the finances, the other often has no idea what policies exist, what accounts are open, or what their own financial picture actually looks like. David had no idea. What Sandra had quietly built over 18 months was a financial architecture designed around one outcome. First, she increased the life insurance policy David already had, from $500,000 to $2 million. She told him it was routine, an upgrade. He signed without reading it closely. Then, 3 months later, she opened a second policy with a different insurer. $3 million. His name on it. Her signature on the application. His knowledge of it, 0. She also, and this is the detail that investigators couldn't stop thinking about, moved $40,000 from their joint savings account into an account in her name only. 6 weeks before he disappeared, David was reported missing on a Friday evening. Sandra told police he hadn't come home from work. She seemed distressed. She cooperated fully. She gave them his phone, his car details, his route. The car was found 2 days later, parked near a river. Engine off. Keys inside. No signs of struggle. No body. Police initially treated it as a missing persons case. Possibly a mental health episode. Possibly voluntary. Then the insurance investigator got involved. Here's something most people don't know. Insurance companies don't just write checks. When a claim of this size comes in, especially this quickly, they assign their own investigator, someone whose entire job is to find reasons not to pay. Her name was Karen Holloway. She had spent 19 years in insurance fraud investigation. And the moment she pulled Sandra's file, 3 things stood out immediately. None of those things were illegal, but all 3 of them together told a story. Karen Holloway shared her findings with the lead detective. Together, they started building a timeline. What they found was a pattern of financial behavior that began 18 months before David disappeared. Small moves, deliberate moves, the kind of moves someone makes when they are planning for a future that doesn't include their spouse. Phone records placed Sandra's car near the river. On the night David disappeared, she had told police she was home all evening. A witness came forward, a jogger, who had seen a car matching Sandra's description, parked near the riverbank around 9 p.m. David's body was found 11 days later. Downstream, the cause of death, drowning. But the position of injuries on his body was inconsistent with an accidental fall. Sandra was arrested 4 months after David disappeared. The insurance companies, both of them, refused to pay, and every dollar she had moved into her private account was frozen as part of the investigation. Now, let's talk about what this case actually teaches us, because there are 3 financial lessons here that apply to every single person watching this. Lesson 1. Know every policy that exists in your name. David had no idea a $3 million policy had been opened on his life. That is more common than you think. In most jurisdictions, a spouse can open a life insurance policy on their partner with minimal documentation. The insured party may never receive direct notification. The fix is simple. Once a year, request a life insurance policy locator. through your state insurance commissioner's office. It searches industry databases for any policy in your name. It's free. Takes 10 minutes. David never did it. Lesson 2. Joint finances require joint visibility. Sandra controlled the finances. David trusted her completely. That trust was weaponized. In any shared financial relationship, marriage, business partnership, family trust, both parties should have independent access to statements, policy documents, and account summaries, not to distrust each other, but because financial visibility protects both people. If David had received his own copy of every policy renewal, he would have seen the increase. He would have asked questions. The paper trail would have looked very different. Lesson 3. Insurance companies are not passive. Sandra assumed that when she filed the claim, the money would come. She had the policies. She had the paperwork. What she didn't account for was Karen Holloway. Large life insurance claims, especially those filed quickly, after a suspicious death, trigger automatic investigation. The double indemnity clause she had added, which doubles the payout for accidental death, flagged the policy immediately for additional review. Understanding how insurance investigations work is not just useful for spotting fraud. It's critical for anyone filing a legitimate large claim. Document everything, cooperate completely, and never ever call the insurer before you call a lawyer. Sandra was convicted of first-degree murder. She is currently serving a life sentence. The insurance companies never paid a cent. The $40,000 in her private account was seized. Her children were placed with David's parents. The thing about financial crimes committed inside a marriage is that they always leave a paper trail. Always. The policy dates, the account transfers, the phone records. Every move Sandra made was logged somewhere, in a database she never thought to worry about. Money, it turns out, has a very long memory. If this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe. New case every week. And if you know someone who has no idea what insurance policies exist in their name, send them this video.